Hello and welcome. You're watching The Mint. I'm Abhishek Singh. As we record this, President of the country is addressing a joint session for the members of the lower and the upper house. Shortly after, the economic survey will be put out. And with that, the countdown to the budget has come into the last stage. Now, to discuss what the budget is going to be like, some key expectations, and of course, about the state of economy, I'm joined by one of the finest economists, Dr. Sajjid Chinoy, Chief Economist India, JP Morgan Chase, Managing Director. And of course, Dr. Chinoy has also been a member of PM's Economic Advisory Council. Thanks for talking to us, Dr. Chinoy. Thank you so much. Welcome.
A pleasure. Good to be here.
Why do you think the uptick in corporate investment hasn't happened yet? Because last year, in the last year's budget, the government did bring down, after a lot of lobbying from corporates, the tax from 23% to 15%. And I mean, a year later, we haven't seen any spur in investments from the corporate side. Why hasn't that happened yet?
So a couple of reasons. For many years, we've been grappling with the balance sheet issues where corporates had a lot of debt and they were deleveraging. Number one, banks were still working through their non-performing assets and were recapitalizing. And that was a binding constraint for several years. Now, that, as I mentioned, has all got cleaned up in the pandemic. So the constraint no more is supply. But it's possible that corporates will want to wait till utilization rates go up. We're still at manufacturing utilizations at 75, 76%. And you normally wait for that to go beyond 80%. And so if you're confronting a world with a lot of global uncertainty, if you're worried about a global recession or what's happening in China, and global rates are the highest in 20 years, it's understandable why entrepreneurs will say, let's be patient, let's see how this pans out, and then we will invest. But as I mentioned, we're getting closer. The focus now needs to be on public investment crowding in private investment. For public investment to provide some impulses in certain sectors so that those utilization rates go above 80%. And when the global cycle turns, entrepreneurs are ready to invest at that point.
All right. So that's so far as private investment is concerned. But looking at public investment now there seems to be some gap between, state capex and central government capex. Do you think there is a need to sort of, bring in a lot more alignment between the two governments? I'm talking about state governments and the central government, of course.
Yeah. I think so. I think we'll need to get all hands on board. The center has pushed very hard on public investment and capital expenditure over the last 3 years. It's gone up by almost 1% of GDP from 1.7 to 2.7. States and PSUs haven't kept up as much. Now, there's encouraging news that states have finally begun to spend in the month of November, but chances are that capex to GDP at the consolidated state level will still be lower this year than it was last year. So I think the center, the states, the PSUs will have to kind of work together to ensure that all guns are firing. And it's only when you get that big public investment push that you can then meaningfully crowd in the private sector. So yes, now is the state issue one where it's an absorptive capacity issue, potentially in some states? Is it one where they have to plan their finances better and need to have an understanding of what revenues they're going to get from the center and their own revenues so they can plan capex better? That's probably some of it. So there are some of these issues that need to be worked through, but it will be important, in my view, for the next couple of years, for the center and the state and the PSUs to work in tandem and fill that gap till the private sector takes over.